All right, welcome everyone. Glad to have you here for the CROA board meeting tonight. We will start with owners' comments. The first person here is Al Groves. You're up first.
Absolutely.
And then name, address, and whether you're an owner or renter, please.
Al Groves, resident owner, 506 Sycamore Street. I rise tonight related to action item 12, sidewalk replacement, for which you're allocating $21,000. 2 bids received, 1 selected. What's the real issue? The issue is what figure 1 shows. It's unevenness of the sidewalks that float all the way down through the community. What's the cause? Go to figure 2. It was obviously the trees and the verge that causes the lifting and the unevenness. Let's go to figure 3. Figure 3 is a picture of an expansion joint. At least that way you have a segment that you can replace without having to do larger pieces. Figure 4 is also a segment in the sidewalks, but it has no expansion joint, so all the junk gets in there, and that's what causes weeds and all this stuff. Figure 5 shows a different size of the verge, depending on various areas, which directs you the problem of if the different sizes trees aren't controlled, you have even worse areas that can be a problem. Figure 6 is a little hard to see, but it's something I raised with CCDD here recently. There's a section of sidewalk that's 60 feet long, poured in one continuous pour. No expansion joints, no cuts. Well, it's really out of context of what the neighborhood looks like. So what am I requesting? Whereas the continuing aging of CROA infrastructure sidewalks will be an ongoing issue, and whereas item 12 addresses imminent replacement of some sidewalk segments, I request that 1, you make certain that the selected contractor is not chosen solely on cost. I'm pretty sure that when one is half as expensive as the other, that was the sole cost consideration. And ask you to define the replacement segment's form, fit, function to a standard at least as compatible to the rest of the community, and place these standards in a written contract. All you have here is just go fix it. 3, consider making any and all future replacement segments exceed the initial community build-out standards. Maybe it's with rebar, concrete additive, expansion joints in every segment, whatever it might be. You hold us accountable as residents to a pretty high standard for continuity. You ought to at least hold yourselves the same thing as we work out in this problem throughout the
Now, are these CROA sidewalks or CDD CROA?
Well, you've got them listed as you're replacing them up in North Village.
I don't know.
Well, it's in your pictures, it's in your...
It's this photo, North Village.
That's
I think
photo
that's
is
best
North Village.
clarification. So yes.
That's yours.
Okay.
4, implement a policy regarding the size, location, replacement of trees based on the size of the road verge. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but as we replace trees, you keep putting big ones in there, we're not going to stop going. So this issue is not going away. You communicate your new policies to Manami and CCDD to provide continuity of style throughout the community, and you take an interest in this matter so as to prevent another Walt Disney-style calamity for this town. Mark it, 3 minutes.
Thank you. The next person I have is John Hill.
Hey, great. Thanks for allowing me to bring this issue up here to run past the board. What we're
Address and stuff.
Address, Nat?
Oh, sorry about it. It's 100 Salinger Loop, Emerson, and 100 Salinger Loop, Celebration, Florida.
Are you a renter or not?
It's a renter.
Okay, thank you.
What I wanted to ask to do, I've been in Celebration for quite a while, been native to Central Florida for about 45 years. And what we're looking at, requesting today is this. There's a lot of people, I'm a realtor also, I'm actually a broker, that come to the area, that enjoy outdoors. We see bike racks around, they're pretty common. What we're asking about this a little bit different here is that small boats, they could be small kayaks, canoes, or just small power boats. In the Emerson neighborhood, in the Emerson facility in itself, they have a back parking area that's kind of secluded in there. And what we're asking is that if someone were to have a little boat that was properly covered, I might add, and fit tightly and neatly into one of the parking spots, that, it may be allowable to just maybe park it there to use during the summer months or whatever, covered. Like I said, very tastefully done. There'll be some strict confines to this. Like I said, must fit in a parking spot, must be something small. Somebody had a canoe or a kayak on a trailer, just something simple that they would have. It's kind of analogous to the bicycle rack. You know, the bicycle racks that are around everywhere that we see have a lot of bikes there, and I just think it kind of fits in with the lifestyle. I mean, we're in Florida here, there's a lot of lakes, people go to Disney and they see water a lot, so it'd be great just to maybe have that opportunity, like I said, done very tastefully. Everything would maintain a cover, and it would have a designated area. So it couldn't be just anywhere, and the designated area would just, the vessel itself or whatever they have would have to fit in that tight confine, and it would have to be covered. So there would be a lot of prerequisites to doing this. You'd have to have a lot of these things. So if you had it covered, you had it fit in a spot in the designated area, so it maintained a continuity, which is so important, that this is what we're doing here, that this might be possible for somebody.
Are you asking for Emerson only, or?
Well, I mean, Emerson is an ideal locale in some respects. I think you could take each area on a case-by-case basis. Would the area support it in terms of the area of the parking lots? Would there be a certain area to other areas that would allow this to happen? It would be a case-by-case basis. The only reason I believe Emerson's a good case is because it does have a back section that is not used by cars really whatsoever, even in the height of Christmas and Thanksgiving season. That's in a back corner. It's over near the actual 417 area. And maybe that could be a designated area is what we're suggesting, and that, whatever recreational craft would have to be tightly covered and must fit it must fit just as a car would in a parking spot. It could not overlap the parking spot, it could not come out straight from it. So that's kind of what we're asking here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is kind of a picture of an idea. Maybe this will give you a little bit of an idea what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for coming around. Those are the two people who signed up. Anyone else in the audience that would like to comment that didn't sign up?
Prior to doing so, can I just make one comment? While I love the enthusiasm and the passion, did you bring it up to the apartment complex?
Actually, we did, and they were fine with it. They actually said that would be good, but then they had to back down on that because we do want to make sure everything is done properly.
Well, that's actually my follow-up. Did they direct you to come here?
Well, we
Because
thought we would.
and I appreciate that, but we do not have any jurisdiction or say in any capacity. So I don't want you to waste your time or breath here, but I'd love to see what comes of it.
Hey, I just like to see the process
And
here.
Susan could help you
And-
later
right.
on
I'll
to
be
get the right
glad to help
contact.
you with Celebration Non-Residential Owners Associations. The apartments are governed by them.
Okay, no, I see and understand that. That makes sense.
Well, if you write your email down, Suzanne in the purple shirt is the Canoa manager, and she can help you with it.
I'll make it simple. I got a card.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else with a comment? Okay, thank you very much. Susan, verify the meeting was properly noticed?
It was.
And for the audience, Steve Waring is away on business, so Susan's the person in charge tonight. Susan, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Perfect. Can we everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we will start with calling the meeting to order. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? So moved. Second?
Second.
Okay, Jackson's the second, so David and Jackson. One item I would like to add to the agenda, we had a workshop on Monday. We discussed the community website. We had 4 board members present and 3 absent due to travel business. So I'd like to make the website actually action item 1. And then we'll just drop everything one item. Is that acceptable with the board?
Motion to amend.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we've got the approval of the minutes for the CROA workshop of April 1st, the CROA workshop of April 15th, and the board meeting of April 24th. Can we just do a motion to approve all of them? Second?
Second.
Any comments?
Yes.
Jackson made it and David second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries. Okay, so let's go to the committee reports. I'm sorry. Okay. We have, one of the comments we have been asking, if there's a lot of talking going on during the meeting, Rachel is having a hard time hearing who's making motions and not making motions and stuff like that. So if we can ask you, if you're talking, to keep it down to a respectable whisper, we would appreciate that. Okay, on the committee reports, what we have done is, the board reads them, they're available for the public. We've really turned it into a situation where if there are any questions, we will ask the questions, and then the appropriate people from the audience can come forward and answer it. Does anyone have questions for any of the committees? I'll start with ARC. Any questions for ARC? Any questions for covenants? Recreation? Events. I want to ask for an update on the 4th of July. I'd like, if you can, JR, just come forward. 4th of July is about 6 weeks off, so where do we stand with the whole rollout, announcing it, everything that's relevant? If we could, please.
Going well, great. The May magazine had in our first article in it. The June magazine will have a timeline of events. We'll also have the traffic and safety information in there. Our entertainment is booked. Sheriff details are in. I've done a walkthrough with the sheriff's office as far as traffic, safety. So we've identified our key areas in the community as far as downtown with safety, traffic throughout. I mean, we'll have probably about 16 deputies on site between security and traffic detail. We've ordered some traffic aids, Jersey barriers, cones, that sort of things. We have the restrooms ordered. We're working on signage, stuff like that right now. So, I mean, is there anything specific you're looking for?
No, so basically, my question is, so we've got the fireworks that evening. Have we announced who the entertainment is, or we're still? I can't. We have, okay. So it sounds like Eagles. So, and that concert starts at what time?
They'll start at 7:30.
7:30, so.
The event opens at 4. There's an acoustic singer at 5, and then the Seven Bridges at 7:30.
Okay, so everything's out, all safety stuff is done. Who's in charge of lighting? Okay, so basically, we think we're in good shape, we're ready to roll, and everything's been addressed with protocols as it should be. We feel we're in good shape.
Yeah, I'm real comfortable. I mean, no event is perfect, but I mean, for what we've put down on paper right now, I mean, it's about as good as I can get it.
Any board member have a question to develop?
I do. When it comes to, can you give a little update on the park and ride, as well as if you reached out to the churches and other organizations in town for parking?
I've talked to the school, Mr. Buchanan over there. We're going to talk again next week. They're going to be doing the paid parking like they have done in the past, and they've done for some events or some weekends that are now snowing. Still trying to finalize the park and ride on the school's end. Waiting for Kim Mannion to return a phone call to kind of firm things up there. I've talked to Disney and Lincoln Property Management over at 215 Celebration Place. So as soon as the school signs off, they'll sign off, and then we'll reserve the buses.
Thank you.
Okay.
Two questions. One, in orchestrating this event and comparing to the most recent one, which was 2 years ago, what would you say are the major logistical changes, if any, from how you managed that 2 years ago?
From the one CROA did in 16?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or was it 15?
16.
16 or 17?
16.
16.
Changes, there's not much. I mean, we're following the same plan we did in 16. It worked very well. One of the highlights that night is by 10 to 11, we had town cleared of traffic. We've identified a few more intersections that we did not have coverage then that we're going to have coverage now, and we're going to have deputies work in they call them the traffic pickles, to allow traffic, but the water tower shops to flow out to 192 a little bit quicker than they had before.
So basically, the lessons that we've learned, we're improving on, is really the thrust of it.
Yes.
And then the other is, I don't think I've heard any discussion, at least recently, about resident-only area.
There'll be a resident, it was in the May magazine. Lakeside Park will
Well, I was
be,
kinda like, I didn't read them.
it's available online, David. Come on. There will be resident-only viewing, Lakeside Park. We'll have staff at both entrances, basically checking ID, so if you don't have an ID, please don't give them a hard time, bring your ID. And there'll be viewing, you feel free to bring your own seats, chairs, blankets, that sort of thing.
That has worked very well at various resident-only events in the past. The staff has done a marvelous job with that. So, thank you for reiterating that, continuing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I have one final thing, just if you are able to, and this should be easy, this is the original budget that you had. If you can just shoot an email off with the updated as it is today, with what you actually have filled out, it might help us get a real understanding.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, JR. Appreciate it. Okay, Technology Committee. Any questions regarding the Technology Committee? It does sound like it's launched, and it actually looked interesting. I liked reading the minutes in there.
They are working hard.
Good. Dog Park. Any question for the Dog Park Committee? Okay, we're in good shape there. Liaison reports, CCDD. Kevin?
So, last night I did go. I sent an email off to everybody, and I'm actually going to pull that up to make sure I don't miss anything. The hot topic right now would be the fountain, and that is under repair. The vendor did come in, and he does deserve, you know, at least a little respect for coming in and addressing the community. That was appreciated. So it's going to be corrected, I think about 2 weeks is what they mentioned. Next thing, Jerry he is not permitted to take instruction from anybody as far as ticketing goes, but Jerry will be ticketing without any mercy. So that goes not just for our residents, and that's not meant to our residents, but if you have any visitors this summer, make sure they're obeying everything because they're going to meet him one-on-one. As far as our team goes, we should look on site and ensure that our landscapers, every vehicle they use is in fact street legal. Landscapers throughout the community, residential, when they're taking their lawnmower that's a ride-on into the street, going 3 doors down to the next one, I don't know what might happen, so just keep that in mind. Separately from that, I did speak with one supervisor today, and comments about the cameras have been circulating for the entrances of the community, and they are working on the CDD to go ahead and get that happening. That supervisor did request if we can, as a board and as an entity, share our support if we do all have that in a written form. Perhaps management could draft that and share that we are on the same page and we would, not talking about expenses or support financially, just support that decision of having that for our community. So I will be meeting with that supervisor, that's Lee. Him and I will be meeting on Friday morning to go ahead and discuss a little bit more and understand where he's going with it. But any comments or concerns about that, now would be the time.
I'd like to see the written report. I'm not sure that I agree with this concept, and I'd like to see how it's going to be implemented and really what it's going to do. I think there's a fine line between invasion of privacy and protecting property rights, and I'm not entirely certain that CCDD has fully considered this, so.
That's fair, I will share that. So that apart from.
Can we agree Kevin's our point person for this?
I think, Jackson, don't you carry a copy of the George Orwell's 1984 in your back pocket?
Okay, so on that one, on the CC, and just going back to the traffic, there's been a lot of complaints about why don't somebody do something about these cars that roll through these stop signs and all this other type of stuff. Jerry's had enough of it. No more, please slow down. Tickets. So everybody be aware. Okay, financial review, Vaughn.
Financial?
Yes, please.
Brian, I'm sorry. I can read right here. I can't turn around. Something like that. Okay. Susan and Brian and I met, and we went over the budget again. Some of just the big numbers right now are the gross revenues for our first quarter were above budget at $2.1 million. The expenses are under budget primarily due to timing issues. I think it was because things get done a month at a time throughout the year. And so we expect to be at budget for the entire year. Operating cash strong at $1.6 million. Reserve fund cash is at $2.9 million. We're down from 4.7, which we had in December, end of December of 18, because of the athletic fields. 1.8 million went to the athletic fields, and we have about 1.1 million left to pay to complete the fields. That's what we believe so far, anyway. And then 2020, next year, we still have that $200,000 that we owe CDD to pay for the road that goes into the athletic complex, because they paid for that, and we have to pay them back.
Speaking
And I
of,
think there's an interest on that, too, isn't it 3%?
3%, yeah.
so speaking of that, there's a balloon payment that's coming through.
That's the one in 2020.
They are basing their budget next year upon that balloon payment.
Mhm.
And that is critical for them not to raise their assessments, is what was stated yesterday. Does it make sense for us to go ahead and pay a portion of it this year of that balloon payment? Does that help our numbers in any capacity? Does it matter?
It really-
3% is really not much, but
I've read the contract. I don't think we had a right to accelerate. It was actually a 15-year contract that had a right to accelerate at 5 years, if I remember right. I have to reread it, but I think it read like that, so I don't think we can pay it this year.
And their budget year starts October 1.
Right.
yeah, but they have to get into the county in the next 30 days if they're going to raise anything.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
I think it's in our budget to pay him anyway, so.
Yeah, no, I was asked last night if we would be,
Yeah.
if we were planning to pay him, and I said yes. We certainly got the working capital.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Good.
okay. Management report, Susan.
Okay, first of all, y'all all have the management report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. But I wanted to introduce Laura Polis. Most of you have met her. I want the community to see who she is. She is our new community standards manager. She took Tony Camphor's place, who Tony was promoted, in case you don't know, to another CCMC community in West Palm Beach. So Laura will be the face.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and I know I have some big shoes to fill after Tony, but I'm looking forward to the challenge. So if you guys need anything, please contact me. I'll be glad to answer questions or look into whatever is needed, so.
Can you tell us a little about your background, please?
I've actually been here for the past year and a half as the administrative assistant for the department, so the day-to-day operations I'm extremely familiar with a lot of the properties. Previous to that, I worked 6 years in trucking, in dispatch, so a lot of customer service in my background, so. But I love it here, and I'm happy to continue on the journey here in Celebration, so.
Perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here, thank you.
Good, thanks.
Did anyone have any questions about the management report?
Let's give an update on the athletic fields.
Okay, the athletic fields are planned to be done soon. Todd, you want to come up here? I don't. It's too hot.
Todd, do better than soon. Let's have an update on the athletic fields.
Well, I believe it's June 3rd is the date we're looking at for the final. Currently, they're waiting on Duke Energy to supply the electric meter. So all the power is run, the transformer's sitting there. We're just waiting on Duke now. So that's been about a 2-week wait time so far. So we're, fingers crossed, it's today or tomorrow or
Let me ask
Monday, hopefully.
Let me ask some specific questions then. So
Sure.
on June 3rd, does that mean we're 99.9% done? Does that mean we're 100% done? Does that mean we're going to get a final billing?
I think it would be, let's say 99% done, because you still have to do a final walk. It's going to take them probably 2 weeks to do the absolute final, because with the power delay, they still have to check all the electrical systems. They have to get DEP clearance for the lift station, so that will take about 2 weeks. So we can occupy the structure, but all the, final Ts crossed are probably a couple weeks away.
And how good is the sod, the grass sod on the fields?
Field 2 is excellent. Field 1 is weedy in about half of it. The landscape architect has sent notice to the contractor that it's to be replaced. So that's outlined. So we're working with the contractor to make sure that gets, expedited. So we're not accepting the sod until that final turf is replaced.
Other questions for,
From day one, Todd, when that opens up, what's the staffing going to be as far as monitoring that area?
I don't know the answer to that.
I
That would
actually
be-
know the answer to that one. I believe that we're looking for a 3-month fill-in period for the turf, is that correct? Through
It is,
August?
yes.
And I believe the plan is at this point in time, and Steve's gonna cover that in the level of service meeting that we have, is to have 3 part-time people covering when the field is open down there.
So they'll be there the whole time to watch in case, you don't know
Right.
who's going to come in. Okay.
Exactly, to help anyone.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about is a soft open
Yes.
Dory, you could speak to this. I wasn't able to be at the last Recreation Committee meeting, but I think that's still where we're at. It's soft open in June, hard open in the fall, when we know that the fields are right and we've got staffing up and everything's working properly. And we have the rental agreements reviewed by council, and we know that they're good and we're ready to roll and we've got everything set up. Is that, am I accurate with that?
could I just ask you to come on up, because I'm going to have a couple more questions anyway.
I have a couple of questions while she's coming up.
And Todd, yeah, please, so-
Questions for Todd, please?
Perfect.
Yes.
Couple more questions, just to clarify. For the sod replacement, you said some of it is going to need to be replaced. What would the timing of that be? And then the other question is, there's a couple of items on the agenda for tonight. Assuming they are approved, how long will those take to actually get finalized?
The sod replacement, I don't know an exact date yet because we haven't gotten the contractor to commit to a date. So we're trying to expedite that with them, I would say within the next 2 weeks. And then I think there's a 10-day period for the new gates to be manufactured. So we're looking probably the second week of June.
So
But
that's for that 1% that you're talking about?
Right, but the construction gates that are there currently will remain in place until, once approved, the new gates would go in.
Okay.
So,
That's helpful.
so Dory, if I can ask, just, I know, I fully understood we were having a soft opening and a hard opening, so we got rules, we got rates, we got procedures, we got policies. You and the committee under Adam have all been tackling this. Kind of what does the big picture look like?
The big picture is that we currently have the complex, it's a 12-page. This is basically a request for use. This is what we've been working on a lot. And we will have a better picture, by the way, of the fields. But in this is the organizations, there's an application, and then through the packet that they have the size of the fields, and your choice of how you'd like them lined. We have pricing, deposits. Someone had asked before, do we have deposits? We have deposits, charges for lighting, and we've reviewed countless other fields, those in the area and those that are similar to ours, to try to come up with pricing that we think is doable. The pricing will be tweaked over time. Basically, if it is a field, if we find that there's a low demand, then we may lower the price. If we find there's a huge demand, then we may raise the fees. This will be tweaked over time. But in here, then we also have, we've pretty much, I would say, completed this, so we're on track. We have the rules and regulations for the basically overall the overall corridor area. We have, for the grass fields, have their own rules, the synthetic. We have it for the concession, we have a parking policy, and then it goes into the terms and conditions for CROA. Once the this will be online, and you can also pick it up here at the front desk. Once you take it, you fill it out, you return it. Once it's returned, it is reviewed by management. We've been working really close with Nikki and Corinne because they're ultimately going to get it back in their hands. They will go through it, then there's like a 7-step process. We want everything in here. This is also the pricing for CROA residents and non-CROA residents, so that they know everything. So if they want to do fireworks and pyrotechnics, this is the wrong place, so they're not going to come here. They'll know everything that is allowed or not allowed in this packet when they fill it out. And then they go through the 7-step process, more or less, with management, and they go through the, securing the deposits, the insurance, and all the parameters and rules and regulations that CROA specifically has. Once that they meet all those criteria, then they will be sent an approval that they get to rent the field. We'll have deposits that are rolling for leagues, but we'll have specific ones for short term.
2 questions.
Sure.
And anybody on the board, please jump in too. When do, I mean, the board hasn't seen it yet, so you'll bring it to the board at some point in time. And when do we actually anticipate starting to rent it? I mean, are we going to start renting the fields in June on a soft basis, or nothing until September, October? So everything in the interim, is anybody going to play on it this summer?
Well, it's a good question. We did get 2 requests from soccer and lacrosse. And we met this Monday, and we're meeting, we have 2 more workshops in June and a meeting in June. By the last meeting, the official meeting, when we will basically vote as a committee, we'll turn it over to all of you for your review. But I think we might have it done by the 10th. I think we can pretty much at least get this is a draft to you for your next meeting in June. We already had 2 requests for summer camps. And based on the information that we received, we said, no, we denied it as a committee because the fields aren't going to be ready. So, but we have approved for them to go ahead and go forth with their camps where they are currently planning and playing.
What about the turf field, though? I mean, certainly that's ready.
Well, these were not for requests for the turf fields, they were for requests for the grass fields. And also, it's almost like it's an all or none. Part of the thought process is, from what I understand, is that if they're on the synthetic turf, it's going to be difficult to keep them off the grass turf. So it's almost an all or none as far as competitive play goes. But that's up to you.
I will say, I think the Recreation Committee has done an extraordinary job, and you can hear from the meeting schedule, it's a lot of work, a lot of time. I think they're going to bring us, based on the work I've seen so far, they're going to bring us a pretty comprehensive plan. But the general philosophy, correct me if I'm wrong, Dory, but the general philosophy has been go slow, don't overextend. As anxious as we all are to get this into play, let's do it right and not make big mistakes because we were too eager and because we were too optimistic about timing. I trust everything that Todd is saying here tonight, but I also know that given the history of projects like this, we're saying June 3rd, but it really could be end of June by the time we get that turf up and going and get the fencing in and so on. So I think that the general philosophy was let's wait and not do these things in the summer if we can avoid it.
Vaughn?
The last meeting we had with the county here, Beth was there, and both attorneys from each side were there. Dave Tomac was there. I thought, who was there that with me? David? Was anybody else? Just me and you?
You and me.
Okay.
Steve?
I thought there was an agreement with the county on this, that the fees would be the same for both.
That's what I thought, too.
Yeah.
Not
And that's
one
what I
for
think the
resident.
document says.
I thought that was specific from the county as part of the agreement, that for the fields, the athletic fields only.
The agreement does not include the fields.
It doesn't include that.
Are we talking about, we're talking about the rental for, remember they said the fees that needed to be the same for resident and non-resident. What was that regarding?
Meeting space.
Yeah,
Things like meeting space.
That's to reserve the pavilion.
It was for the pavilion, it's not for the field.
It's not the field, the fields are
Fields aren't
not part of
included in the agreement.
Okay, oh, that's right,
We're
okay,
getting
so
reimbursement for the non-field part of, do you want to give us the name of this entity that
Well,
the committee is working, the working name?
The Celebration Community Field Complex, CCFC, but it can be anything that you would like it to be.
It could be Vaughn's secret playground.
It-
But the CCFC,
No, I have one already.
the CCFC is made up of 2 distinct parts. There are fields and there are non-fields. My reading of the agreement with the county is that we're talking about fees and reimbursement for the non-field portion of that complex. And therefore, what the committee has done with fees for the 3 fields is not touched by that.
Correct.
But are there provisions in there for the same fees in the non-field areas?
For the meeting rooms, there is no, it's the same across the board.
Okay.
For lighting, it's the same across the board.
Okay.
For concession, it's the same across the board.
Okay.
For the entire complex, it's different. For the hourly, for both for the resident and non, there is a difference.
For
There is a difference
fields?
For the fields.
Yeah,
But everything else is. and
that's
that-
what I understood,
Yeah,
too.
and didn't we talk about the pavilion? If you rent the synthetic turf, the pavilion goes with that.
It says here, meeting rooms shall be available to all residents and at the same rate as celebration. So it clearly says meeting rooms,
And we
yes.
have that as a
I
side.
think
Yeah.
the structure of
Okay.
this complies, and that was the direction that was given to the recreation committee.
So,
Okay.
based upon what I'm hearing tonight, I don't think we should be saying we're having a soft close on June 3rd. I think we should really be saying it's essentially done, we're putting rules and processes in place, and we're having the real opening in September, or whatever it's going to be, because we're going to confuse the daylights out of people if we say we have a soft opening and then we tell them they can't use it. So,
And I think it's important that we have this in place, and that you all have approved it before we start rent. If we don't have an agreement, we don't have an agreement, so, like I said, I think we could have something to you pretty much by the 10th or the following week on the 17th. At the latest.
and I expect whenever you get it to us, we're going to have questions.
Of course.
Because if you went through and built a budget, I mean, like, how much you think the fields are going to cost, so that we could actually sit there and say, here's what it's going to cost, and here's the rental revenues, and are we making money, losing money, break even, stuff like that? Have we done that?
What we've tried to do was, we took, for example, what the soccer collects, okay, and what they have, and they did the percentage towards, they collect $10 per child, whatever. So what we tried to do is that take that amount, and then we figured, okay, you have this field. We didn't want it to be so far off the charts, but it is supposedly, well, our recommendation is it's fully managed. So there will be equipment, there will be benches, there will be painted. So all those fees, they're not going to have to worry about. And it's going to be ready to go when they want to play.
Okay.
And it's also we're going to have employees. So we have to pay for those employees that are going to be there doing that and also monitoring the park. So what we tried to do is it going to be a little bit higher? Probably, most likely, yes. But is it going to be off the charts that they are not able to afford it? No.
Okay.
That's the way we came up with the numbers.
Any last questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. One other thing I had on the management report was, Patrick, one of the things we had talked about was cameras like at Spring Park, or I'm sorry, Heritage Hall and some of the other pools, and we were looking at camera review. Maybe you can just give us a brief update on where we stand?
Absolutely. So as far as the cameras are concerned, we did have some money in the reserves to actually do an upgrade throughout the community. As far as Lakeside is concerned, we were taking a look at some proposals to get some additional cameras added to the basketball court as well as the tennis court. We did receive some proposals. There's some issues there with line of sight and the length of the distance between where the power is and where they need coverage. So they're trying to work through some of those, some issues there. As far as the complex goes, we did receive an initial quote. It's kind of like a double quote. One was using one application, which is similar to what we currently have. It's a DVR on site, and those local cameras would store locally to that DVR. There is another one which is a web-based application that we're currently taking a look at as well. That one I'm more interested in. I'm trying to get a little bit more information. I did do a webinar yesterday regarding that, and that would simplify a lot when it comes to reviewing footage, storage, just making everything available to you wherever you're at. And that's what I'm looking forward to for the town as a whole. So I'm trying to gather
Okay.
all the information and get that going.
Okay, I'll open up the board here in 1 second. My view on cameras would be, let's do it right. We can spend money and have to spend it again in a year and another year. That just really doesn't seem intelligent. Our good coverage on the athletic fields, we said we wanted to add good coverage on the pools, we want other areas. So I think we should do it right. I hope Kevin and Stephen and others at the technology committees, at least thinking a little about looking at helping them with the sub too, which would be great.
There is a gentleman on the technology committee, that attends the technology committee, who has some experience with the Motorola, and that product that I'm looking at is actually a division of Motorola, a very well-known, I think it's called a Vigilon. So I've been doing research on them. I did have that webinar, like I said, yesterday. It looks amazing, and I'm curious to see what type of costs are involved. I won't know that until probably by the end of this week or beginning of next week. Hopefully I can have something to you by at least a workshop so we can get some initial conversations going. At the very least, if I have everything, I should probably have something to you at the June meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Speaking of cameras, it's great what you have plans for the future. A big topic that brought up the cameras was actually an issue that we had with an owner. I know, Brian, you mentioned that you saw those cameras yourself. Has that line of sight, that coverage area of all existing cameras been arranged or corrected so they're doing their job? I know that they might not be the best, pixel and so on, but are they at least looking at the area they're supposed to look at now?
Correct. So, well, the cameras, they're still up and they're
That
still in those areas, right? Todd and I actually have a plan to go out to all the facilities and do a more in-depth audit of sorts to make sure that we can have the best coverage while we take a look at expanding.
The issue, your question is correct. It had a view, it needed, I think the audit would be good, because when you and I looked at it, it could be moved a little, it's a little movement, but the reality of the matter is we had a situation where 4 or 5 cameras had been put at the playground equipment for very valid reasons, which had taken them off the pool, which is where we said we need expansion. So
Right.
the real goal here is to come back, and I think the board would be willing to spend money, is to get a solution where we've got good coverage, because we just don't want to be sitting around with a 1-year-old and something bad happening and we don't have proper camera coverage. So that's the homework assignment. The audit that you and Todd are talking about would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Patrick? Thank you very much. Anything else for Susan on the management report side?
I have one item. This might be more JR or Todd, I'm not sure. I did notice the magazine bins. I did miss the meeting, the workshop that I think you handled. They look great. They look very nice. I was just curious if everybody else has heard about them yet. The newspaper bins were replaced with new magazine bins. They're nice, and I have a couple of questions about it, but I was just hopeful to learn firsthand from you guys first.
Well, most of the bins are out. Maintenance has delivered the bins, and I think they have delivered 2 additional bins to sites that have needed them. I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, I was just looking for information before if you'd like, I'll throw all my questions at you first. I was hopeful to learn from you first.
Somebody and talk about the bins.
Don't
Fire the
have
questions.
either.
Okay, so my questions, we'll just go with that. How many old and how many new?
We ordered 20 new. We're replacing, I know that there was at least, how many metal ones? At least a dozen?
So there were 12, and there will be 20? Is that what
We
I'm
ordered
hearing?
20, yeah. We're replacing everything there, and we're trying to put them in some new spots, too. There's one that we just put in Windsor. We replaced, I think, the one by Turner Drugs. It was just a rack outside. There's some places that were like that we were replacing with this for at least have some branding recognition instead of just a rack.
No, it's a nice thing, and it does look very nice. What, were these from the magazine printer?
No,
Did they
this-
provide them? These are
No,
an
this is from
expense.
a third-party source.
Okay.
We consulted with them, so we did get a discount because of I guess they do business with print to order, but it was, I think it's Go Plastics was the name of the company.
So is this a CJC expense?
That I couldn't tell you. Probably.
Okay. Did the
Absolutely, yes, it
CJC
would
board
be.
see these yet?
No, I don't think so, because I went to the
Well,
meeting.
there's a new one down at the CVS, that's one that I see.
But how much
I'm
did
not
they-
saying physically
how much
see
did
them.
they-
I'm
how much
just
did they
talking about.
cost? They may not even have to
The
approve
expense
it.
of this whole thing. It was just interesting. And I guess the biggest thing where I have my concern is they seem top-heavy, to be honest. And what I picture is I see a little kid reaching up to that handle, pulling it, and the thing falling down. It has things to secure bolts down. And the reason why I'm concerned is whose property is it sitting on? So now you have the bricks, and it needs to be bolted and so on. And when that thing falls down on a little kid, who's responsible?
Well, each one is weighted down with, was it 100 pounds? Each one is weighted down with 100 pounds of
The
sand.
one specifically in front of Market Street wobbles. In front of the diner, it wobbles when you open the door. So I don't know what we have to do about it, but if somebody gets hurt, I mean, it would come as a real surprise to this entire board. Oh, we have new bins? You know, just the whole thing. So I'm asking some information on it. It was a surprise, a good surprise, a nice surprise. They're beautiful, but it was a surprise.
Let's just have somebody check them to make sure that there's not a tip-over exposure. How's that?
We got it.
Thank you.
A question on the bins. A couple of years ago, there were, the newspaper was distributed in some locations, and those were halted because of disarray.
Still working on it.
Are those
We have
being
some,
revisited, those
we have some
locations?
members of the community who are working to try to get us back into a few of those places.
So this would be more of a larger community, like the hospital, for example.
That's what we're
Where they
referring to.
withdrew those. So that, now that we have a different vehicle and a display, so it can be more functional again. Good.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Anything else from the management report? Any other items or questions? Okay, we'll go to action item 1, which is the new action item 1. The other day, briefed the other board members, we talked about the website. And as regards the website, the recommendation from management was that we go live on June 3rd. Stephen is in the audience. We can call him up if we need to, too. He had looked at it, had others on the technological committee look at it. Stephen and I had a private conversation at the CCD meeting. And his recommendation to me was that it is better than the current site. It is good for a phase 1. I'm putting words in his mouth here, but I think he said...
Just clarification, are you talking Steve Fonfelder or Steve Ware?
Fromfelder, yes.
Oh, okay.
And he said, you know, that there will always be a phase 2 and a phase 3 and a phase 4. But the thought from management and the technology committee was it was good to go, it was good to get it launched, be proactive in fixing things, take good list of things that are found, fix them. The recommendation was to spend the $1,000 for 8 hours at $125 with the current consultant and learn what we learned. We did not want to make a decision on Monday. Certainly, David, you and Kevin have been the point people, so I'd like to give you a minute to ask questions, and others also, so that we can make a decision. So, David, I might have just turned it over to you for a minute.
I was pleased to review the workshop tape today.
Were you?
So I do have a couple technical questions. One is, it was noted during the workshop here on Monday, beta testing was complete with power users. I never heard how many power users were actually engaged and gave feedback.
It was just 2 power users.
2?
Yep.
Okay. And second is I did see Eric's note, and I saw many items listed in Google Doc that he had, where he had screenshots, he had video, he had descriptions of things that needed improvement. Have all of those been addressed?
They're being addressed.
They will be
Many of them were
addressed.
already in process of being addressed, but, you know, that's usually what happens.
I also saw or heard the discussion, and I saw the documentation about the additional services. I would support that 1,000, what was it, 125 an hour?
Yep, for 8 hours.
I support that. The part that I see still not developed is whenever we have, regardless of, even if we were jumped to phase 5, whenever we have a new website, people will have questions about where to find things. They found the old way to do it, the workaround, some of it was not user-friendly. And our intent is to be more user-friendly. So what I have not seen is the specific rollout plan by management about how questions from the community that come to the front desk, how are those going to be documented and then fed back out, whether it's for modification or just to have a series of FAQs. In other words, here's a question we've heard 4 times. Where do I find the charter? Where do I find the access to the ARC guidelines or ARC minutes? Or how do I see the video footage? Or how do I do this or that? Or how do I download, I saw this in the testing maybe 2 months ago, learning, we discovered together, I don't think JR was there, Steve was there, where we discovered we can download items and you can do your own sort on the types of items and download it. And so people are saying, how do I do that? Well, it is intuitive, but people are going to need to be guided. So my point is the rollout plan, the FAQs the questions that come to the front desk or on the telephone, how do I do this, how do I do that, all of that being documented, and those that are, if you will, from multiple people being shared back to the community in a proactive way that says, here are the major questions that have come from the community, and here's the answers. So I haven't seen a plan unless I'm missing something.
There's no plan in place right now. There's no documented plan, exactly.
Before we roll it out, I think it would be good to have a plan that says the front desk will be cataloging questions, and those will be reviewed every 2 hours, and we're going to post new questions and new answers daily. Whatever the plan is, I just think we need to know what the plan is.
Okay.
So has there been discussion about what that plan might be?
No, we were
Okay.
We were anticipating just handling it just like our existing site and any other site we've had before. And essentially that's just, those calls, they usually come in by calls, and we take the information down. A lot of it gets funneled towards, me, and then I speak to the residents. However, JR is working on creating the buzz with a lot of,
I heard that on
releasing
the
that.
tape about the social media.
Right, with the
For those
social
who
media.
don't do social media.
Right, with social media, the magazines.
So my point is, yes, you can hear questions and hear feedback and make changes, but how do you be more proactive to 10,000 people? That's the question. How do we communicate? I mean, part of the biggest issue, I think, is, and what we're trying to solve with the website is be more communicative in a proactive, positive, upbeat way. And if we're hearing 3 questions, then they're out there. And there's lots of people who will have the same questions and are not asking them. But they have them, and then they get frustrated, then they go to the back door.
Well, it's a website. I mean, we ought to be able to put, here are the questions that are coming up, and here are the answers right on the website. I mean, it's got, if you have a front porch, it almost,
Every day.
your point's 100% valid, but I would hope that's the way we're going to communicate.
Not just hear the question and solve it, but let the community know, we heard this question and we're fixing it. Or here's where you find it. 90% of the questions are going to be, where do I find X? It's not there. Well, it's probably there, but it's in another there now.
Right. Creating a frequently asked questions page or a summary of the most common pages that are visited through the past years, that's easy to come up with, and that's easily created.
That should be right on the front page. And there's some new features. I mean, it's exciting what this has. But I will guarantee you, a year from now, we're going to say, did you know that this website does this? And the answer is going to be by 2/3 of our residents, no. Because it has a lot of power in it. It's just buried. Just got to discover it.
We'll make sure that that's part of the plan. I think the next
That's the
2
plan.
weeks, we can absolutely pull that together, frequently asked questions. I agree. I mean, I would like to know what other people are asking so that I can go and look somewhere that I didn't even think about. So
Yeah.
we'll make sure that
Yeah,
happens.
that's the point. That's the point.
So is there magic to June 3rd? Are we 100% sure we're ready for June 3rd? Because once we say June 3rd, we have to launch then. Do we need June 5th, or do we need June 7th, or are we convinced on June 3rd? And Kevin's got some ideas here.
I'd like to, if management is assuring us that it will be ready June 3rd, I would like management to take an extra week and go through June 10th. And that will be for good measure, if you will. And
Okay.
let your team break it on site. Let your front desk go through it, run through it, and see what questions they always get, and see if they can answer them, and see if they're comfortable using the site. If anybody decides, as a resident, decides to start logging in, maybe they can. I don't know. And then I look and I see June 17th is a workshop. At June 17th, I would hope that we could have all big concerns that you have learned from June 10th on shared with the board at that workshop. That's what I would like to see. If you're telling us June 3rd, I'll give you an extra week, and then there's no excuse.
Problem, as soon as we launch, it starts costing us money after that to fix, right?
Not
I mean,
necessarily.
once you launch, they call that, when you have the launch date,
Not necessarily. And to answer that is,
does
with
the
launch
$1,000
comes-
kick in then, those 8 hours? Is that when
That's
that
how
kicks
you
in?
use it.
No, that's everything out, well, yes, it can take care of those issues within 2 hours, if it's a major issue. Everything else falls within that scope, and just tweaking and adding that page. A lot of that can be done by us, by adding like a frequently asked questions page, things of that nature. But once you start getting into complete rearranging of maybe the start page to move things around, those are those items that will start tapping into those 8 hours.
Okay.
But we do have the support from the developer who said, you know, for the first month, hey, I'll give you whatever, they want this to be successful, it's their name on this as well, so, not necessarily.
I read Eric Oppergaard's letter, and I've seen similar power users work on websites that I've been involved with. It's a very comprehensive list that he's made, and since he was the developer of the previous website, I think he understands the challenge probably as well as anyone. I want to just be 100% clear about David's question. There was a lot on that list. I thought it was much more than you had necessarily thought was coming from him when we talked on Monday, because we hadn't received that letter at that point. There's no bad part of saying, hey, there's a lot on here, and we've got a lot to work on. I don't want you to try and overpromise, Patrick. You know, if it's going to take some time, I think what Kevin's saying is absolutely right. And when I look at that letter, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you know, Patrick's not going to do anything for the next month, but work on the website just to work through some of those details. Is that inaccurate?
That's not accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, so the developer has reviewed a lot of that,
So the developer sees
details.
this email?
Right, yeah, I mean, it's what we're going through right now. Like I said, much of that information was already in the works of being addressed.
There were
Some-
problems
there
we
were-
already
and-
knew about.
Right, there were things that we've already identified and things that need to be
There weren't
changed.
issues.
Excuse me. So they weren't surprises to me, and they weren't surprises to the developer as well.
Okay.
So Kevin has a proposal, which I actually like, and where I was kind of trying to help you get to. If it takes one more week to be really, really secure, I'm game for that. I mean, as the CCD said last night, they did CROA a big favor, and they took all the heat off us for anything else we could possibly do. We don't want to take the heat back. We want Wall to be special.
So what you say, they've now put us on national news, and everybody's going on celebration.org to go ahead and check us out now, so be sure, we don't add to it.
Would you be happy, so let's just ask a specific question, would you be happier if we just said June 10 to have a little more time to organize, and certainly in the interim, if other people can keep playing with it, I like the idea of people here at Town Hall, David, others just trying to break the thing, because that's what's going to happen. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. There are certain people in the community who are going to run this website trying like the devil to find things they can post on the back porch. That's just what they live for. So we're trying, it's true. I'm getting laughed, but people know I am serious, and it's going to happen. So I am we are trying to give you as much of a chance for success as possible. And then we'll, as a board, take the heat. That's life. But if one more week would really help you.
I'm happy if you're happy.
Yes.
JR, would you do the extra week? You agree?
And I'm sure he can take advantage of more promotional ideas coming up.
I mean, I feel like we're in a good place now, but I mean, if the extra week puts us, at a higher comfort level, then.
It is 100%, you guys are the experts. I'm not trying to give you extra vote, but
Make the motion.
take your vote.
Prudence never hurts.
Okay.
A little cushion is always a nice thing.
Kevin, make a motion.
Make the motion that we do not launch the website until June 10th.
No sooner than June 10th.
No sooner, with the expectation of management and the on-site team working on the updated website first.
Second.
Any last conversation? All in favor?
Will you be able to send a new link or resend the link? I found it buried in one of the emails. Can you just resend the link so that we can try to break it?
Yes, I can do that. I can send it to the
No,
board.
I mean that in a loving way.
Right. And while we're still discussing the website, I did receive the maintenance agreement that came in on yesterday, Monday. And so there is it came in on Monday, not yesterday. And right now, it's at $1,200 for the year. It's essentially $100 a month, which
Okay.
is very
That's budgeted.
inexpensive
Call the vote.
for what they're offering.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? Your live date is June 10. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you for all your work on
Thank you.
that.
Brian, a question. Did you, I don't remember from the workshop, did you vote on that extra contract at 1,000?
No, we'll need to do
No,
that
we
now.
need to do that too.
That's what she was raising her
We
finger for.
certainly all agreed we needed it, so does
I'd
anybody?
like to make that motion that, I think there was documentation from the workshop on Monday.
have the motion, so that's fine, you guys.
So I'd like to make a motion that
Okay,
that be approved.
so the motion was, I think, for IDGB to provide support for 8 hours of support for $125, equaling $1,000.
Second.
Motion made. Second, Vaughn. Any conversation? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Huge success. Thank you very much, Patrick, JR. Okay, let's go to the Osceola County Agreement. Vaughn, you want to just lead the conversation?
Well, the agreement's been revised to the satisfaction, we believe, of the board, Tom Slayton, our attorney, and the county attorney's office, and the county manager's office, and county commission, I believe. So the agreement is to receive $2.1 million in exchange for use of areas at the athletic complex that do not include any of the fields themselves. It's for what Doria had talked about earlier, the pavilion and the concession area, the walkways that go around. We just had to, it took a little bit longer. The county attorney's office wanted some details on the cost of the complex itself. How much did we spend? How much did the land cost us? How much did it cost the development? How to develop the land, and how much did it cost to build everything that's on site now? So that's all been worked out, so I just don't know the date when this is anybody?
June 10th.
June 10th is when we're going to? So
Be a
that's
good
when
thing.
we expect to get the money, I believe, and
That's
Well,
what's
no, no,
gonna
no.
be
That's
on
what's
the
that's when they're gonna vote on it.
voting.
I'm
Because
sorry.
it was postponed
We
based
won't
on,
maybe get the money until,
excellent, yeah, from the
we
workshop.
won't get the money, but they're gonna vote on June 10th, I'm sorry.
We'll see.
What had happened was they, being the county, had asked us to fill in certain information. Going back and forth, they decided they needed a little more information. Nothing nefarious, I mean, just filling out spreadsheets and junk like that. So they're going to vote on it on June 10th. Our objective is to vote on the agreement tonight.
Then that will be
We did this in
passed on.
December. We pray that this will be the final time, every 6 months or so. But that's where we're at. So, do we have a motion to, you want to make a motion, Vaughn?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we accept the agreement as written with the county, and I guess that would be it.
Right. Second? Is Vanessa? Any other conversation?
My only comment would be, should that motion be pending their approval on June 10th, or their approval, I don't want to lock our date into it, but I also don't want them coming back and editing it.
Well,
yet
we're
again.
approving the agreement as
As
it's written right
written.
now.
As it's written right
Yeah,
now.
as written.
I don't think, they
If they end up
could,
postponing
they
it,
could
then we return it
change the
away.
agreement, that's a risk. They could come back and say, based upon their math, the number's not 2.1, it's 1.6 or something like that. I mean, we react to what happens, but we're approving the agreement as
As
written.
currently written.
Okay.
And in our negotiations that involved the deputy county administrator and their attorney, and we reached this agreement that was viewed, at least from our perspective, in the best interest of our community, and from their perspective, in the best interest of the overall county.
And they
So-
stated also at that last meeting we had with them that they would prefer that the board show their acceptance of the agreement as written, so they can take that approval to the commission when they vote.
Okay.
So it's been a long time coming, and feels like we're at a good point.
Yeah, and I just want to thank Vaughn and David. This process has not been easy, and it's taken a lot of patience, and it looked like it was in trouble a lot of times. And thank you in particular for reaching back out to the county and bringing it back to us.
I absolutely agree, David did a good job of getting together with Peggy and Vaughn. Okay, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously, Rachel, sorry. Thank you. It's late. Motion to approve the ARC resolution. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any comments?
I guess I have one quick question, and I don't know if it has to be addressed in the charter or addressed in, if it can just be addressed by the board. And that is regarding ensuring the committee members have an architectural or engineering background, which is contrary to what it currently states. So we have the authority as a board, we don't have to go to the charter to change that, correct?
The charter actually says that that may be, but not required to be.
Right.
And they're just saying that they prefer to have people that, so you don't have to have people that have the engineering or architectural background.
It's
But they
preferred.
can choose not to, may or may not.
So based upon that, you don't think that there needs to be any edit?
I think it's something to consider, certainly.
Okay.
But I think at some point in time, you may run out of architects and engineers
Which is why we have it in
willing to
there.
serve on the ARC.
Right.
So as it's written, I think it's fine in the documents.
Okay.
But I think the committee has the option to recommend to you that they want only engineers or architects, and you have the power to say yes or no.
Okay.
I'd say the same thing is true with respect to the owner. The members of the ARC need not be owners or representatives of owners. But all of that is subsumed under the idea that members serve and may be removed and replaced in the board's discretion. So we have the widest latitude in the resolution, and I'm not sure that we need to make a charter change to
Right.
resolve that. I like the language actually of this resolution.
I like the fact that the ARC can make that determination as to where they're at, because they did say that they have the ability to get some architects and engineers when I was at the ARC meeting,
Right.
so.
Okay.
So I think it's good that they're being active about that, so I
And
just
they-
wanted to point that out.
And they do rely heavily on Jeffrey when he's at the meetings too, so it's a big benefit.
Okay. Any last comments? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Covenants Committee resolution. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vanessa, and then Mary Ann is the second. Any conversation? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Special events resolution. Motion?
Motion.
Vanessa makes the motion and Mary Ann seconds. Any conversation on special events?
I just want to point out that one of the things in the Universal Committee goals here is to remain accessible to the CROA board. And I'm not entirely certain what that means. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. But I know that part of our goal here was that we wanted a tighter connection to know what was happening in advance. Is that our goal with this language?
I'm not part of the meeting, so
I was
I'm
going
not.
to say, my understanding of what they're saying is they don't have to give a monthly report at the CROA board meeting, but they want to be accessible and they want to try and have somebody here that can answer your questions.
And they certainly do. every
Yes.
Yeah, they
meeting.
do.
Okay. Anything else? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, number 5, motion to approve the Recreation Committee resolution. Motion?
Motion.
Okay, we got Jackson made the motion and Vaughn seconded. Any conversation? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Adult Learn to Swim. Motion?
Motion.
Vaughn, and second?
Second.
Second is Mary Ann. Any conversation? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. 6A, Acela, motion to renew the contract with Acela Cell Service. Make the motion,
Motion.
Second.
and Vaughn's the second. So that's Vanessa and Vaughn. And conversation.
Go ahead. Do you have something?
I was just going to say, I noticed at CJC, they just approved it too.
So my concern with this, it's not that I don't like the app. I think it's a great thing, and it's definitely an asset for the community. But there's been many areas that it needs some attention and improvement. There's duplicate notifications that come through. There's just been a lot of bugs with that app. Prior to us going ahead and signing up for another year, can we be sure and ensure management has every glitch worked out before we sign a contract for another year with them?
Well, Patrick's left, so I'm going to answer the questions. His wife was maybe having emergency surgery tonight, so. Anyway, I believe, oh, there's Todd. I believe that the duplicates that you're talking about is owners sometimes put it in twice, or one owner puts it in and then another owner puts it in, and we're addressing that. It shows up twice?
No, I'm referring more to when somebody goes ahead and responds. For example, if management were to respond to something that was submitted, when they come back, and it's a small little glitch, but it's enough that residents are upset about it. It says somebody commented on your post, and it'll go ahead and tell you 1, 2, 3, or 4 times when it only happened one time. I know it's so simple and minute, but guess what? If we're up for a renewal, they better be showing their best card and making sure everything is good to go. So I'm not saying not to continue service with them, but now's our time to make sure that app is cleaned up.
When's the contract run out?
The end of May.
Oh,
I think it's June 1st.
I think we need to keep the app going, but I think you're right, Kevin, there are that, and there's another one I noticed, is that when you submit something to get fixed, if it goes to CDD, if you ship it over there, it says completed.
Well, that's...
And then on your response, it says completed, but then the person goes by and say, well, it's not completed because it's not fixed. But the completed, I think, means that it got sent over to the agency responsible.
Yes.
And so the people get the wrong
Sometimes.
impression that they're not going by and looking at it.
Right.
I just want to make one comment. I recently submitted something through Sella Service for a property that we have over in Longview. And I didn't have any issues at all. And it was a CDD issue, or it was not a CROA issue. It actually connected over, and I received the notification. I think I got one on my email, and then I got one in the app. So I did get two, but I got both. I don't remember any over-communication when I did that.
Unless in the last month it's been corrected. Patrick and I did have a conversation about it in January.
Okay.
And it took several months before, and last I checked it, it's still doing it.
Okay. I didn't notice it, well, I can double check, but I did not notice it when I just submitted it. So, and that was
The
less than a month ago.
software was not designed for the purpose that we're using it for. We had to rebuild it, is my understanding, sort of make it conform. I'm not sure that signing or not signing the contract really resolves that. It's an imperfect piece of software that we're using as a sort of an interim, maybe. I mean, maybe there's a better piece out there, but there's nothing specifically that does what we want it to do. So I think it continues to be a work in progress, and as Kevin and others make people aware of what's happening, I think we've got to continually be trying to improve it and make it work better, right? But, you know, I think if I understood the previous briefings we got on this, there just wasn't a product that was specifically designed for this, and this was the closest we could get. Is that an accurate?
Yes, do you mind, let me comment. The Sella Service, we've been looking at an alternative. So as you know, we've been working on looking at maintenance management systems that would do work order, asset management, the whole 9 yards. We found one, I believe it's on the workshop for
June 3rd. It's on your list, Brian.
It's on the, yeah, so we'll review all that with you, even if we did, if you gave the go-ahead on this new system that would enhance a Sella Service type system.
Same company or different?
No, different company.
So do we approve this one, is it for a year?
Yes, it would.
Or can we do month to month?
No, I would say that the year is probably needed, because by the time you get a new system in, you need some overlap to be able to work out all the boats, so, yeah, you're still a year away.
One of the things I had asked for the June 3rd workshop was that we talked, you know, we had the thing where the power outage and almost how we use Sella Service, and just really almost get into the service level conversation around that to see how it leads into really what I'm thinking is your conversation, and it would be good to have that conversation there too.
Yes.
So to me, I'd very much like to do that on June 3rd, because I think we need to do it. So the question becomes, do we renew it, knowing that we have another solution? You're saying we need a year to transition, or if it's 6 months or something, we have a sunk cost for
I'll
a
make
piece
a
of it.
motion to continue the contract, and then we can work through some of the problems that we may have.
We've already got a
and look at
motion
the
to,
other-
we've already got a motion and a second, so.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, so we're
That's
good
discussion,
there.
yeah.
Who made the motion?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yeah.
You did. It's in the book, and you said you.
So, final comment,
I did the adult learning.
I will support that, you know, and continue to. Vanessa and I both just looked on our separate apps to make sure it's not, you know, just my phone or somebody else's phone. And we are receiving, it's actually 4 now. So it used to be 2, then it was 3, and now it's 4 times the message is duplicating itself or quadrupling itself.
So what you're saying is we're
So can you bring that?
over.
I wish the residents would see that. But 4 times, if you can just take that back to Patrick or
Got it.
whoever and work on that.
And we'll
Okay, well-
definitely address it.
Marion.
This is kind of this question has nothing to do with making a decision, but I am curious to know, do we have any idea how many residents actually download and utilize the app?
I don't have that information on me, but we do have statistics.
4,900 users.
Really, very good.
How many are?
And
Residents.
Oh, okay.
That's actually great that you bring that up, because before we were on the board, David and Vanessa, I'm not sure if this is something that you used to see, but the management report used to actually list not only the number of users of cell
It's still
service,
in it, isn't
but,
it?
no, it's no longer in there, and it got taken out when we came onto the board.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I would love to actually see that back in the management report.
Oh, there you go.
I do too.
We
To get the matrices out, but I think the information could still be reported to you.
I just,
Thanks, Rachel.
well,
It is very heavily used.
I mean, that actually impresses me. I was not expecting that number, so.
I usually, myself, through maintenance, I usually get about 10 a day on average. And then maybe 2 or 3 of those get transferred over to the CDD, just from people not knowing which button to push.
Very good.
Okay.
So Tom, question, I was reading about that other software, was that in the management report this time?
No.
That other
No.
I read about it
No.
in something.
It was on Brian's summary of future board
that where it was?
Yeah. It's a
workshop
workshop.
items.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's all right with everybody, I'd love to call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? No, and it will be workshopped on June 3rd.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to item number 7. The motion to approve an annual monitoring agreement for the complex with Kings 3 Emergency Communications in the amount of $1,188. Motion?
Motion.
Second? Second. Von's the second. Vanessa and
Remember
Vaughn.
this time?
Okay, conversation?
One question on this, based on what we've talked about earlier about the fields and the opening date, will these contracts not begin until we start using that? Or are these contracts, if they get signed today, we're going to see the renewal 1 year from today? So, I mean, we're talking about a couple of months. We're not talking about a couple of weeks, it's a couple of months.
I hadn't realized it.
And we have 2 items, it's that one and it's the next one down.
Yeah. The actual service agreement would not start until the equipment's installed, and you have about a 4 to 5 week lead time for the equipment to actually be on site and installed at that point.
So you'd be looking end of June to go ahead.
At a
and-
minimum, yeah.
Should we?
But we would not
Well, I mean,
use it.
or would, that's a good question. Would we, would it be, even if we have this mini soft opening, will we want the equipment out there? Will there be a use for it, or is it just wasted money?
I think it's, personally, I think it's an asset. When you-
It
If
is.
we
If
have,
we're
if we,
using it.
but it's still gonna be open. I mean, it's still, people can still get on there.
I guess that's what we don't.
Yeah, I mean,
know. don't
well,
know.
we don't know. And until we actually have everything there, we won't know if anybody goes out there, and if we don't have the monitoring.
But there's a fence up. I mean, it's trespassing
Will
at that point.
the fence be opening on the soft opening date, or not?
I would think not, no.
So,
No, I
Not until it's staffed.
Yeah.
The-
So I think we need to protect
we're
it.
voting to approve for them to move forward with a contract with that entity. We're not voting on the date of the
Right.
contract. So they can make judgments, and we can make judgments on that without, we don't have to make that particular decision tonight. But I think we should assist them to move forward, because there may be some more discussion on that at
Sure.
And what is it
Agreed.
that this system does?
Which one?
I'm glad you asked. So Kings 3 is an emergency call box station. We have them at all the swimming pools. If you go up and push the button or pull the handle open, there's a person on the other end that will ask you what your emergency is, how they can help. They'll call 911, and then they call me, and then they call Susan, and then they call the whole world. One is cellular-based, so it's going to be down at the pavilion. The other one will be attached to the building, which will be hardwired, so we're covered in both avenues.
So in the event that a soccer player gets injured and needed emergency assistance,
That's the quickest route, yes. And we can alter the start date on the agreement, whatever you
Yeah,
come up with.
it shows 1 year from the date of the first billing.
Yeah.
So that's why I guess I was confused about why do we sign
I mean,
it now?
we just
So they're not
approve
gonna,
the expenditure.
we're approving it, and they won't sign it until,
It's
Till the equipment's
Till they're
there.
ready, till the appropriate time, yeah.
Okay. Call the vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry.
Okay, Thorgard Software Annual Agreement. Now, when we had talked about this before, I think Mary Ann was also going to look into this a little and provide comments and stuff like that.
This is I would go with this. This is the lightning detection system that we looked at the last go-around, and I'm very much in favor of this, and so much so that I'm willing to make the motion right now, Brian.
And I'll second it, Mary Ann.
All right.
Let me just say, the Recreation Committee did look at this at management's request, they also unanimously approved the recommendation.
So, just for me, when it goes off, who's gonna hear it where?
Everyone.
Is it gonna wake me up at night?
Yes, because you live in that.
Well, I assume that, it's activated or deactivated.
It
So
is.
that we're
It's
not
set on
going
a
to,
timer.
at 2:00 in the morning thunderstorm, everybody in Celebration is gonna be like, wow! No.
So it's going, when the parks are open, it will be on and it'll be active, and when it goes off, and that's within a 2-mile radius? was it?
Is this the one that can be done on a timer?
It can, yeah.
Yes.
What you're looking at here is a software agreement for the equipment that we already approved. It's all online and phone, 2 to 10 mile prediction of lightning, not detection. Big difference. So
Yeah.
this will give a warning before somebody gets zapped, hopefully.
Which is preferable.
My only
Yes,
comment
that's preferable.
with this one is this one actually does have a date of June 1st.
Is that equipment in yet?
No, it
Okay.
is not.
And it's a 4 to 6 week lead time, I think you told me?
This one is as well, yes. Oh, we can make sure that the licensing date is in conjunction with Kings 3 and all the others.
Honestly, that doesn't bother me because it's not so bad to have that lead time to test the system and to make, we're talking about a safety system here. And
Yeah, the other one
having
has
that
4
lead time
weeks.
on that really does, I think that's actually in our better interest.
Yeah, the 4 weeks, not starting June
Less than
1st.
100 a month.
Yeah.
Just don't know the
Right.
point of it, that's all.
Okay. Call the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Okay, item 9. Okay, motion to approve a change order for the gates for Armco construction in total of $24,041. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second is Vaughn. Todd, walk us through the big picture.
Sure, what we're looking at here is the first line item from Armco is the $13,000, almost $14,000 for 2 ornamental gates, drive gates, and a walk gate. So we're talking right after the CDD property, before you go into what we refer to as the golf course lot. There will be heavy-duty ornamental black gates, 2 of those, and then a walk gate on the side for the sidewalk access. This will block traffic going clear down to the complex. The other 3 items are in relation to some alterations that were needed for some bracket systems that TCC had required early on, and this is to cover those brackets up and make it less ugly.
Do we have pictures of what these things look like?
I don't have.
Has
one
anybody
on.
seen them?
What did we have planned?
Has anybody seen what they
in the
look like?
first place to have it go up 24,000? What did we have?
Well,
Like a wood gate or something?
oh, for the
We don't have
gates
anything.
itself?
I know. Well, this says, this says required changes.
Right. There's
There had been
3,
some.
there's 4 different items on there, so you got the 14,
Right.
just over 14 for the gates. The other 3 are for cedar post alterations.
The other 3 are
TCC is requiring, so we can't really get around that.
Originally on the sidewalk, and we didn't have.
We did not. We had to have the gates down by the concession to block people from getting on the fields, but Parks and Rec Committee and all the rest of us thought we really should block traffic right at the CDD building.
And I think we agree with that. I'm just curious what they look like.
What they look like would be the ornamental gates that are already on the field, only a heavier material.
We didn't see the order.
Yeah, they've been up for a few weeks.
When we did our board drive around, I don't think we
No,
saw
they
it.
weren't up then.
They
That's when the
weren't up, yeah.
conversation began.
But when I was up there recently and I didn't see, they look fine, I didn't
They
know.
blended, right?
They blended, I don't remember them looking particularly, I was gonna say, I don't remember them particularly being,
They're not too ornate.
no.
No, they're not overdone.
Well, it's like the dog park is the black, it all blends, the whole area, it all blends, so.
Okay, so.
I was back there, my husband was back there, and we, didn't see anything.
You got a motion in a second.
Okay, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about, motion to approve the replacement of 16 Bollard Lights at the Bocce Court Amphitheater sidewalks.
Item 10.
Skip 10.
10, mulch.
Sorry. All right. Replenishment of playground safety mulch by major mulch in the amount of $6,760. Motion?
Motion.
Mary Ann and Vanessa is the second. Okay, take it away, Todd.
This is just like I said, certified playground safety mulch. We replace it once a year at Lakeside, East Village, no, a little bit at East Village, Spring Park, and now we're adding on Spring Lake. So that's why the cost has gone up a little bit from the reserve item. And this is a vendor that we've used 3 years in a row, and they've held their cost for us, which we appreciate.
So that was my question, why one bid?
One bid because it's based on the bids that we've gotten the past 2 years, where we bid it out, and all of them came in at $45 or $50 a yard. So
And this is
one's
how
at
much,
40.
sorry?
This is 40 a yard.
40 a yard. So you're saying based upon experience,
Yes,
to not make other people mad, you know these guys are priced well.
correct.
Yeah.
Where's this
Okay.
stuff
That's a good
go? It's
price.
rubber, right?
No, this is a wood fiber.
Oh, this is the wood.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not the,
It's a special.
the special, yeah, what is
Yeah,
that?
Rubber's not in anymore.
No, no, this
We
is.
don't use that
It's not in anymore. I like how you say
Rubber is in
that.
okay.
It's not very green.
Choke hazard.
Okay.
Go
Call the
with
vote.
Vanessa.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, now number 11, the 16, motion for the 16 Bollard Lights at the Bocce Court, Amphitheater sidewalks, and the East Village Pool. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, got that, Rachel? Perfect.
I do have a question about it, though. My bulk of my question is, we were talking about what we want to do in that area, and the drive around. Is there any implication if we decide to do anything, do these lights still need to be there because they're a sidewalk? I mean, you know, because we always keep sidewalk areas all lit anyway, so is there any implication if we change that area to whether or not we need this expense?
I would say people are still going to utilize the sidewalk unless you get rid of that too. It's a lot of folks walking down there in the evenings, so my recommendation would be you keep the lights.
Okay.
Even in the future, if you decide to rip up the whole place, you can use those elsewhere.
So the lights are totally redeployable?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not sure everybody understands that around the amphitheater, there's a walkway and there's a path that leads down there. So what happens is after dark, because there's a heavy tree overhang, you're not really getting street lights illuminating down there. So for safety purposes, it makes sense to have the lighting regardless of what's done in the way of an event or a park. It's still a property that CROA owns.
And it's a sidewalk that needs lit.
Are the lights that are there not working any longer? They're on lights.
They've just degraded over the years. It was in the reserve study to replace them as we go, like we did in North Village. They just degrade from oxidation because they're aluminum, get whacked by lawnmowers and, kids jumping on them. So they're due.
And just for comparison purposes, lights were put in at the Artisan Park Pool and the clubhouse at about the same time, and those lights, Dave Hansen is here, so you can speak to this if we need to, but those lights were also replaced by the Artisan Park Committee recently. They've just all worn out about the same time. So
Okay, so the lighting is not working any longer, essentially.
it's becoming
That's
less dependable, and it just doesn't look right. I mean, you've got lights that are not working, or they're flickering, or some are out, and.
Or dim.
Okay, so that makes more sense than
That
just
makes
getting
sense.
replaced because it was in the replacement study. That's what I wanted to.
Okay.
There, just one bid?
No, if you look on the cover sheet, there's a Rexel number. That's the company that we used for North Village, so we've gotten them a little less expensive through Frontier Lighting.
And installed.
I guess I didn't see both bids in the actual packet.
I
I know I
did.
see it on the
Right, I requested one
The
from
action
Rexel,
item.
but they did not get that to me in time before I used their prior number.
so that makes sense.
I would
Thank you.
imagine it didn't go down, so.
Okay. Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, sidewalks by vice service. So the motion is to replace of sidewalks by vice services for an amount not to exceed $21,315. Motion?
So moved.
Mary Ann, and a second?
Second.
David. Okay, take it away.
Okay, so.
Well, the first question is, why the heck is there such a difference in these two bids?
That's a good question. The Vice Services is a reasonable bid. We've used their services in the past. Anywhere from $12 to $16 a square foot is what the average cost should be. $35 a square foot is way out there. So they weren't even really comparable at that point.
You think
Although
they
we
did that on
appreciate their
purpose,
bid.
maybe just to get out of the bid?
That's what it sounds like.
Possibly.
Maybe.
It
Sometimes
happens.
they do.
But they do, it is through, that bid is through Capital Land Management, which does the CDD. I don't know if they do their sidewalks, they may have.
They're used to government.
But they first came in at $35 a square yard, and I knew that was way off, so I had to revise it, and it came out real high. So I did listen to what the gentleman had to say about the sidewalks and the quality of them. Vice has been good with us with their sidewalk construction. I have 8 years' experience of doing sidewalks and concrete slabs, so I'm quite sufficient to oversee that. I will write up a better scope that identifies what to do with roots if they're in the way. We go around them, over them, get rid of them. And I do have some stuff from University of Florida that explains all that. I'll make sure the contractor, whoever you select, follows that.
So Matt, or Vice rather, they have done sidewalks for CROA before?
Yes, they have.
And those have held up and they're great and?
Yep.
Okay.
They have a very nice broom finish on them, so.
That's the same company that does the painting?
I was just going to
Yeah.
ask the same. I was just gonna ask.
That's where he
I
started.
told him he needs to be called Vice Services because he does a lot of different
okay.
things.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet with him at the work view. And I was really impressed with, one of the reasons, I asked him specifically, why are your bids so much less? And he said, well, I like doing the work here. I like working with Susanna. I like keeps my guys busy. It's a good flow for his business. I mean, he gave me good reasons why he would want to be here. And he said, I know that if I bid low enough, I'm going to get the jobs here and I can make a profit. I don't have to make a killing, which is kind of nice to hear when you're in celebration.
Rather than get
And
doused.
I was just really impressed with him. I thought that he was out on site as the owner, walking the property, right? Going, and looking and getting notes. And, I think that's what, Al's talking about as well, is we want people that take care and know what we're doing and how we do things. So I thought it was good.
Quality is very important.
And you will look at the root issues and anything like that.
Absolutely.
All right, call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, next one is motion to approve landscape improvements for Academy Row Meeting House Green by New Leaf Landscaping in the amount of $5,232. Take it away. Get a motion, Von's motion, who's the second?
I'll second it.
Vanessa's the second.
My only question is, did ARC approve?
Pardon me?
Did ARC approve the planting? Did Albert Riddle?
Okay, so what we're doing is plant fill-in. We're not making.
So plant fill-in doesn't have to have
Yeah.
ARC?
No, it does not. So this is a minor landscape improvements, which was scheduled for the reserve study for this year. So Jacob from New Leaf and I walked both properties, and we identified areas where hedges were missing some plants, and plants were failing, and that we couldn't get to with the money we used last year. So it was nice in the reserve study that it was across 2 years, so we can kind of finish the work that we started.
Okay. Any conversation or question? Call the, sorry, go ahead,
I'm
Kevin.
sorry, this area, was it recently painted as well? Or is it going to be painted?
Yes, it was painted.
It was,
Academy
okay.
Row was painted right when I came on, so 2017.
Okay. The reason why I was asking, I didn't want them to put plants in now and then trample on them next year
Yeah.
when they.
Right.
So thank you.
Okay.
Very good plan.
Call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 14, 32 non-compliance items.
Nope.
They've been
It's
updated.
24 now.
24.
It's in your sheet.
Okay, 24.
Are we allowed to mention without mentioning the address? Can we
The
mention
number.
like number 2? Can we
Yes.
say what that is?
Yeah, that's a question of mine as well. Thank you.
Go ahead, what was the question again, sorry?
What number 2 refers to? What type of?
It's a non-discrete business.
Yes.
Yeah, don't say the name of the company.
Type of
Just what type is?
It's
what- what-
candle business.
What kind?
Candle?
Okay.
like candle and scented
And that's
items.
becoming a nuisance?
We've had a lot of complaints. They're having an excessive amount of deliveries.
Okay.
I mean, we've had a lot of residents send us photos of trucks outside of the
Oh.
property, more than your standard, Amazon or UPS deliveries, that type of thing. So, and I know one of the things for non-discrete business is that you should not be able to tell by sight, sound, or smell from the exterior of the property. Our inspectors have told us you can smell this house outside of it. So, not in a bad way, but that you can tell that it's scented items coming from the house, so.
Thank you.
Does that
Thanks.
answer all the questions?
Yes,
Okay.
for that.
Any other conversation?
I'm going to have a hard time supporting this one,
Which number?
number 2.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I live right around the corner. I get Amazon deliveries every single day, sometimes 3 times a day. And so at that rate, it's not for a business, and I understand that. I'm gonna have a hard time with that specific one.
Yeah, but let's remember that all we're doing is sending this off. We're sending this back for.
To the covenants
To covenants for the
committee.
investigation.
So-
We're not actually taking a fining position
Yeah.
today.
We're just approving it to go to
No, we're
covenants.
voting on a fine.
Yeah. Well, we're voting,
We're voting to fine, then.
Initiate.
we're
Initiate
initiating
the
the
fine.
process, which goes back to the
The covenants
covenants.
can either,
And that's what I'm saying is
Confirm or
I'm not
reject it.
comfortable starting a fine. If there were people and clients going in and out, I think that's one thing. A truck delivery,
Is it-
I don't know,
I will
Conflict
say
on this
that this
one.
was initiated actually by an article with the Orlando Sentinel that specifically said that this company was running out of a house in Celebration, and that's how we found out about it in the initial. So, I mean, before that, it was kind of, no one had reported anything, but once they put it out in the open that they were running out of their house in the newspapers, that it was.
I recall hearing about this one
Yes,
specifically. That's why, so did a neighbor complain, or
We had,
is it the
when
article?
that news article came out, we had multiple people
Okay.
emailing us, sending us copies of the article saying,
And those
you know.
emails and all that is in a file for,
yes, we would be able to
This-
pull those up, yeah.
okay, and that's a little different then.
I mean, that's how it all initiated, was
That
an
helps me.
article saying they were running out of
Now you
houses
say
in
that, it
Celebration.
clicked with, I know exactly what it is now. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Call the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, item number 15, motion to approve 5 fines to a specific assessment.
And that was changed to 4.
4.
I know, they got revised.
Exactly.
They always get revised the day of.
I was doing other things before the meeting. 4, okay, any comments?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
any comments?
Have you had any communications with these 4?
Typically, they're not communicating with us, which is why the
They're here.
covenants committee, folks
Typically, I
on-
understand, that's what I'm checking. Has there been no communication whatsoever?
So the 4 that were approved, it did go down 1 because a resident did reach out, said it was unforeseen circumstances, that type of thing. So we are trying to work with them to get it completed. The other 4, we have not heard from, at least in several months. I'd have to go back further, but,
Okay.
Is that
no, we
number-
have not had
I'm sorry,
any
but-
communication, so.
Is that number 4 of foreclosure? Number 4 here, or what is that? Why is that so high?
It's repairs that need to be
Yeah,
done, landscaping
but
problems.
is it a foreclosure house or something? Or we don't-
I don't know.
Remember, this still goes back to covenants, and then covenants comes to us with a recommendation. This is already.
This is what they're doing.
This is now making these.
It doesn't recall off the top of my head that it's a foreclosure.
They've already done the fines.
Okay.
So,
Well,
It goes to an assessment, and it could be appealed, and we might hear it in the appeals
Yeah.
hearing.
right, that's always very possible, so.
seemed like a lot of money.
Question on item 2. Is the date correct?
Yes,
2/16/18?
yes,
So that's 15 months?
yes.
Okay.
And on the, I guess, 3rd item, or 4th item, depending on how you count them, this has happened since 2/22/19?
It's just a couple of months.
That was when it was voted upon to, our standard is 50 days if we haven't, from the previous.
That was this day.
Right, $100
Yes,
a day for.
correct. Well, it's not from that date, it's from when
The
the
actual
covenants,
hearing. The letter.
and it comes back for vote, and we vote, and then it's 50 days to repair those items. If not, then it comes back for this vote that you're here for now.
Call the vote?
Uh-oh.
I'm thinking.
Uh-oh.
These are real numbers.
Do we have more details than these notes that are on the side that we're able to see?
Well,
I mean,
what exactly do you mean, other than the categories, or?
like, for me to go ahead and see 2 words that says painting, landscape, and then that
But these are.
figure. I don't know, I guess.
But covenants
But
committee.
covenants,
Yeah,
these are all
that's their work.
recommendations made by covenants in
It's
there,
their
right?
work, yeah.
Right?
We
I mean,
we have routinely seen fines in the $10,000 to
Tens of thousands.
$15,000 range that come to us on appeals, and then we bring them back down
Yeah.
if
I know.
if it's warranted.
Right.
So I don't think we should overreact to these numbers specifically.
Right.
yeah.
You know, we're reasonable people. If these owners want to come and talk to us,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I just recall
I
a
think-
mailbox situation.
Yeah, but-
And that's what I'm
But if
having.
they're not responding,
Right, then that's the
then
issue.
this
That's the
this
issue.
gets their attention.
It gets their attention,
Right,
yeah,
we'll
well.
send out a letter letting them know that you approved it, and that they have the opportunity to
So it's going through the
appeal.
process.
Okay.
It's just the process.
And I will let you guys know that even from what you're seeing on here, dated letters, we do email these people and constantly. I mean,
We had went through the process where we were talking about going to certified letters and that type of stuff.
Right.
I mean, nothing
Have we
was.
done that yet?
Nothing was
We have
agreed
not done
upon.
that yet.
Okay.
I don't think we ever voted on it.
I think it was on the
Nothing ever
workshop
came down.
list
Right.
to talk about,
Yeah,
but,
we
okay.
haven't done anything about it.
All right, call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It passes unanimously, we'll deal with it when it comes back.
Speaking of that, can we get that on a workshop sooner? I feel I would be a lot more comfortable with this situation
I
if they're
tend
certified.
to agree with you, we've got,
What specifically do you want to workshop with it?
well, we had said we'd workshop, it shouldn't be a long
Notice.
item, but
Yeah.
the notice for the second and third
Certifications.
letters, I think, on June 3rd, I got one other item here so I think we're gonna have 3 items there that are gonna take us a good chunk of time.
I feel a lot more comfortable.
Got it.
And I'm fine with that.
Got it.
Okay, item number 16, motion to approve one service area intent to lien letter. Motion?
So moved.
Jackson, second?
Second, Vanessa. Oh,
Is second Vanessa?
that's whoever.
Okay, any comment on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None?
Here.
Passes unanimously.
I got my notes with it.
Rachel has moved into the audience on this.
It's a better seat.
That's right, she's staring back.
Okay, motion to approve one attorney recommended write-off. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second, I guess. Second.
My
Either way.
fat mouth doesn't shut up today, so I have something to say on this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Do we see the number that's on there? And this has been going on for 5 years.
2009.
Okay, oh, that's right, we can only go up to 5 years.
Yeah, we can, some of this is beyond the statute of limitations.
And
So the attorney is looking to get permission to write off a certain amount of this so that he can move forward with the
So that's all amounts prior to the 5 years.
Is that a former
Yes.
attorney's?
this is a former attorney.
It's, yes, it was in their hands.
Yeah, let's also remember that assessments they're real, but they're not. And the interest on that is
Real, but it's not.
real, but not. I mean, the number looks pretty staggering as a straight up number.
Yes, but go back to what Rachel just mentioned, 2009. That means it's already been written off. Or no.
No, it has never been
No, it's
written
never
off.
been written off. We're writing it off.
But we can only write off up to,
Says
this is not an amount.
We can
This
keep
is
it
the
for 5
5
years.
20
Right.
prior to 1/1/4.
It's still active for the 5 years
These are
that
the-
it's
these
still
are the prior to
valid.
5-year
It's still in.
amounts.
We're not writing off the whole amount.
Read that little tiny print there.
Just
No,
previous.
I get that, but
5 years.
they haven't paid since 2009.
Right.
They've been in and out of foreclosure.
So in other words, Kevin, we're writing off the balances that are more than 5 years old.
That we can't do
because
anything
there's
about.
nothing we can do.
Got it. See, my monster is done, guys. This is empty.
Call the vote, all in favor? Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, motion to approve one legal settlement request. Motion?
Motion?
Second? Anybody? Second is David.
I just want to point out, the owner defaulted on the previous plan, so I would be curious, so why is the attorney now recommending acceptance?
Well, the alternative is
Nothing.
We
nothing.
collect money
Yeah.
because of the down
There's a-
payment.
He is defaulted on several payment plans. The thing is that you try to do what you can to keep the money coming in.
Okay,
It's costing him money to go back and forth to the attorney,
okay. all right.
you know,
I
but
got it, that's all.
it's keeping the cash flow going.
Okay. Call the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, board comments. I got one comment. The other day, we had some people come forward and say, hey, the board said it's going to do its top 10 priorities. We want to hear the board discuss its top priorities. So for the workshop on June 3rd, we actually said we would make the board's top priorities, and I've had people talk to me privately after that meeting. There's a lot, I kind of throw this out there as I think it would be good for people to know what the priorities are, but I'm getting a lot of interest from the community. I'm probably going to take our request list and just get them all in a little Excel spreadsheet that you'll get from me in a day or two, and we can also sit there and kind of say, these are the items that are percolating up, these are the ones that are not. There's been a lot of interest, so that'll be an item. Certainly,
For the camera update, we talked about.
camera update will be an item, and we had the other item.
And the self-service, and then the certified letters.
Yeah, self-service and certified letters. So those will be the three items on June 3rd, for sure, and then any updates. Other board comments for today? Go ahead, Ken.
One thing, this might be more of a question to management. In the packet, there's something that says attorney case list. Vanessa and Brian can each be on either side of me. I don't know, Susan, are you familiar with the paper I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Okay, so under here, there are a total of 1, 2, 3 attorneys that are possible. The newest one is in fact Larson, and the other ones, it actually says CCMC. I'm guessing CCMC is probably just a filler blank, so it's not referring to an attorney. But what I am seeing is balances on the far right side. 20,000, 50,000, 49,000.
Where'd you get that?
Where are you?
This is in the packet, kind of tucked in
If you
there.
look under community standards,
These are things that are going to be like that $5,000 fine that we had to approve today. These are going to be future ones, if I'm understanding correctly.
What's the page?
actually, those are at the attorney. They've been at the attorney. All of the ones that were with our prior collections attorney were turned over to Aries Bossinger, our current collections attorney.
So
And-
how long has it been since Larson and Associates have been over this?
Since before I was here, but we didn't transfer accounts, so before 2014, but we did not transfer accounts from Larson and Associates because it didn't make sense at the time. So there's one last account there, and it's the person died is the reason why.
I'm very familiar with,
Yeah.
I'm confused why we're not addressing that specific unit.
Okay, I want to look at the list. I had never seen
And
that.
all of these figures on the far end, I mean, it might be best for treasurer and president to go ahead and sit down with management
Yeah,
and
we'll be glad
get a
to do
full
that.
understanding of this.
Yeah, I've never looked at that. I think it's good.
That's the same sheet that we
It's
got in
in-
the old board packet.
Yeah,
I've
it's
got-
in there.
it's- yeah.
If you
Yeah.
look
It's always
under
been there, because
in
I
the
had it when
management
I was in the board
report.
before.
I'm just, it's
Yeah.
400, it's almost $400,000
Oh,
worth
it's a
of
ton.
future write-offs.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to know what's up.
They're all active, Kate, they're all active.
But that one is far from active.
I would agree.
Okay, I agree. I'm good with that. David, I'm sorry.
Yes, and JR can clarify this. Memorial Day ceremony this weekend?
10 o'clock Saturday.
10 o'clock?
Saturday.
Saturday?
Perfect.
And often there's someone here to remind us of that.
Right.
So I just wanted to raise that for community awareness.
Thank you. 10 o'clock Saturday. Thank
10
you.
o'clock Saturday.
And that'll be in the Friday flash and everything, right?
With the changing of the flag twice a year.
I know it's beautiful.
Have a aloha to summer on May 30th, we should show that.
And the weather is guaranteed.
Please do it.
That's what the weatherman said, 0% chance of rain. It's gonna be hot.
So bring your umbrellas.
Yeah, there you
There's
go.
another event on May 30th, the Aloha to Summer event, which is
The Aloha to Summer
events
event.
committee. You can have freshly grilled hot dogs.
Well, that's next weekend.
Yeah, that's next, but we
Yeah.
won't,
We'll have a meeting to announce it.
Perfect.
Yeah,
5 minutes
Aloha
early.
to Summer with
Very nice.
hot dogs. That's what
hot
they
dogs and shaved ice.
do Aloha.
I'm there.
All right. Does the board have anything else that they want to discuss?
JR dogs.
We are meeting 8 o'clock again, folks. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Vaughn, second. Vanessa, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, audience. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you, CCMC. Good meeting.
Thank you, Susan.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, wherever you are. Oh, there you go. You're back.